Alright, welcome back to another Mirage Arcane Warfare Community Diary. This week we're going to be talking about sound in Mirage, and we're here in the audio cave with the audio wizard himself.
Hi, I'm Buckley, I'm the sound guy.
So Buckley is the sound guy, the audio director at Torn Banner, working on Mirage, but he was also the voice of the Mason Man-at-Arms in Chivalry.
Yes.
Our first game. So as a special treat, at the end of this video, we're going to be showing you some brand new voice lines that are performed by Buckley in character that are written by you guys. So wait up for that later on in the video.
Looking forward to that.
So Buckley's had a hand in pretty much every sound that you're going to hear in Mirage, whether that's someone's body being chopped apart, that slash of a sword as it hits another weapon, the scream of someone as their body flies past you being hit by a giant boulder, as well as all the music in Mirage. One of the most exciting things about our games at Torn Banner, I think, is the voice acting and the voice commands. So what can we expect for that when it comes to Mirage?
Well, players can expect a very similar system that we had in Chivalry, which we give players large menus of just different types of things you could say on the battlefield through our manual VO system. I think what's fun about that is there were so many choices that things became almost strangely conversational. There were many different ways you could react to the same situation on a battlefield. So we tried to keep that system intact, but we did have time to think about it, and we had some redundant options, and we weeded them out. Took some things that people weren't really using. And we had some time to think about the game, and we added some things that we thought would add a lot more unique color within that system. So, for example, we've added an awe line, we call it. So if something just incredible happens on the battlefield, you can just make note of that, in your character's personality or voice. Yeah, I mean, it may look like you saw an awesome firework display, like, whoa. We also added disappointment. We gave players a chance, and I played TO rounds where you realize in that last 2 minutes there's just no way you're going to win that battle in Chivalry. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if you could sort of take it out on your other teammates? And because people like to be jerks in a game, let's face it, it happens sometimes, and the VO system allows you to do that. We also added confusion is another one. If you're just losing your mind, or just even if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you can go and then someone can say, follow me. So we just wanted to give a lot of options to the players, and in Mirage, we've increased the types of things that you can say on the battlefield.
Cool. If you press F10 in our game, something pretty special happens, right? What are we doing with that key in Mirage?
Normally you don't let everyone notice ahead of time. Normally you find out in-game what F10 does. But
right.
Yes, if you say you wanted to die in our game, and I've even seen that contextually in situations where a guy knows he's going to die and he'll just give himself up. Like, I've observed this in the game. So we did add what we call the kneeling battle cry, which instead of running and screaming or, bellowing for your team or talking yourself up, you can sort of give your epic death monologue before you go. You can just say a little something about your life or what's happened. So if you were to hit F10, you get to hear one of those shortly before you self-destruct, and just adds a whole nother layer of comedy, I think, to the game.
Awesome. So Mirage, the awesome thing about Mirage is the amount of voice actors that we've got going into the game.
Oh, yeah.
Chivalry has had 4 different character classes and different voices for each of them. Now with Mirage, we've got 6 different character classes. Half of them are also women, which adds more variety to it as well. So what's the cool stuff that we can expect in terms of voice acting?
Just the sheer amount of it is impressive with the 12 characters. So it's 4 more characters than we had in Chivalry. Mm-hmm. And the diversity of the characters is a lot more different. In Chivalry, basically everyone's sort of a foot soldier. Yeah. They're kind of cut from the same cloth. In this, the characters are almost more like superheroes. They all use magic sort of differently. They all come from their different walks of lives. And male and female, they sound a lot different. Yeah. One of the more exciting thing is hearing some of the women do the battle cries. It's something we just never heard before. My favorite example is the Tinker, because she's a small, kind of wafy girl. And so she's running the battle trying to intimidate everybody, just like the Torrent is like 300 pounds of muscle. It's just really funny to hear just a smallish girl just, she goes in trying to intimidate people much larger than her.
It makes the fight sound a lot different, I think, versus Chivalry, where you're getting a lot of variation in everything that you're hearing in terms of the voices that are always coming out of people, in terms of screams, in terms of voice commands coming out. Yeah. Which is pretty awesome.
You're going to get gameplay cues from that, too. So if, someone's battle crying in the battle, and I think you'd eventually learn that in Chivalry, whose voice it was. It's going to get a lot clearer in this because, we have the Anthropist, the big man, we got the Torrent, another kind of big man, Alchemant's a little smaller. And the voices, they're much more, their personalities are so sort of different from each other that you're going to be able to easily tell who exactly it is you're dealing with. Are they a friend or a foe? I mean, I think a good example would be the assassin class, which I think everyone's pretty used to the idea of what assassin is. So the assassin from the city, she's a hired killer, usually used to take out like political figures. We figure from Azar, the other side. She's got a very Lucy-Liu sort of Kill Bill, passionless, detached, classic assassin kind of voice. Well, the Azar assassin used to be one, and is now zealously believing in what the Azar does. So her personality is just bloodthirsty. Like, she wants to go back and kill the people she used to work for. So, right there in that one class, just the way they're going to be delivering these lines, it's going to be very obvious what side they're coming from.
Yeah, I think we might have players picking favorite characters based on their personalities and voices in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I have some of my own, but they're so different. It's just even fun if you do play the other side, not getting your first one, and there's so many different voice lines, you're going to find other excuses to use them,
Yeah, another awesome thing that's been voiced, of course, in the game is the sounds of death. Both in the screams, of course, and the sounds of when someone gets killed, but also the clashing of weapons and the weight that you've got when you kill someone. You can really feel it, or vice versa when you get killed. Like, it sounds like you've just been hit so hard. How have you done that for Mirage?
Well, I've done that in a couple different ways. So a lot of times when you're getting hit, particularly by other people's abilities, these massive damage, sort of magic attacks, I've used stereo sort of sounds. So if you're getting hit, melee style, there's a fine point in the world where everyone hears that. Now, if you hear somebody else get hit by the spell, you'll still hear that, sort of basing point in the world. But for the pawn itself, if you're the player getting hit, I'm using stereo sound, sort of wrapping your head, giving you a big subwoof underneath and a sort of different texture in each ear. It's going to be obvious that you got hit. Not only that, we're using different sort of style of hit sounds for the abilities of the different classes. So if you got hit from behind just based on the hit sound, you should know, oh, an Alchemaster just like hit me with a fireball, or oh, that's a Torrent there, he just uppercutted me. Like, you should be able to tell just by the design and texture of the sound itself.
Yeah, it's crazy how much sound adds to the combat in terms of not just making it feel more visceral, but in terms of increasing the awareness the players have of their control over the game and what they're doing. Yeah,
this is true. And our game can get pretty chaotic with all the abilities and even 6-on-6. A lot can be going on in a game. So at the same token, we had to do things to sort of separate the sounds that weren't important to you from the sounds that you really needed to hear. And we tried to do that in a couple different ways. We'll weight sounds based on, if you have two torrents, the enemy torrent sounds are going to be much meatier and much heavier, right down to the footsteps. So if you got a torrent running at you on each side and they both decide to do the same ability, one's on your team, one's from the other team, you'll know exactly which way to turn. Awesome. Based on just the intensity of the sound. Cool.
So, that's all the sound aspects in terms of fighting and stuff, but another part that you work on is the music, right? So, what are you doing with the music for Mirage that makes it stand out and different to what we had in Chivalry?
Okay, well, in Chivalry, just being sort of medieval epic fare, I think most people are used to what you're going to hear. You're going to hear orchestras, you're going to hear lots of horns, giant drums. And in this world that we created, we still got that Persian vibe going. So I tried to root it in a lot of world instruments from the area, ouds and dudeks, and a lot of hand percussion. But then, not only just sort of representing that flavor, we wanted to represent just the pure fantasy part of it, the magic of the game. And for that, we chose to use like vintage synths, a lot of synthesizers, but analog stuff, vintage stuff that you don't really hear a lot these days. Stuff you would hear from Wendy Carlos's Clockwork Orange soundtrack, a lot of sort of early to late 60s, 70s sort of sounds. And just it's really interesting to hear the mix of the two. It's a very unique sound to hear these sort of ancient world instruments mixed with these synthesized sounds. And it sort of became its own blend that we felt was unique to our world that you don't really hear in a lot of games.
Yeah, it really takes you out of our reality entirely, right? There's not even like a historical feeling to it. It's more like I'm in a completely different place.
Yeah, it sounds like Bashran and Mirage now when I hear it, But one of the more exciting things about the system is, unlike Chivalry, we were able to build a dynamic music system to where gameplay events will change the song that you're hearing. So you could be running into combat, not in any danger yet, and you're getting a little Middle Eastern vibe. All of a sudden, bang, you're hit by a fireball. All these other instruments drop in and sort of take up the tempo and the intensity of the song. Right up until where you have like 10% health left and you're going to die. You're going to know just by the way the music has changed.
Awesome. So it's almost like the player is, as they're being creative in combat and figuring out ways to defeat their opponents, the music will affect the way that they're playing.
Yeah, exactly. The music that you hear in combat, we'll have some theme songs and whatnot for the title too, but for the most part where you're playing the game, you're not going to hear the same song twice. You hear the same instruments and you'll like that, where you're like, oh, I like this vibe of the song, but you won't be able to predict what it's going to do next.
Awesome. All right, so if you want to hear how Mirage sounds, check out some of our latest gameplay trailers, the most recent of which was for the PC Gaming Show at E3, so you can hear all the bloody, screamy noises from there. Speaking of which, at that show we just announced the release date for Mirage, which will be later this year in 2016, and the beta will be following up sometime soon this summer. And we'll leave you now with some new Mason Man-at-Arms voice lines recorded by Buckley. Thanks, everyone.
The only magic at work here is how you manage to fit into that armor. I will give you the honor of a slow and sloppy death. We fight, we die, we fight again. But when is breakfast? Oh, that's a nice sword. Your mother must have worked overtime. You call that gin powerful? It's not nearly as strong as an archer's mead. Is that weapon compensating for something? Do you mind if I cut in? At once. No, wait. I changed my mind. Let's not. Behold, the field in which I grow my f***s. Lay thine eyes upon it, and thou shalt see that it is barren.